Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy, and today we're going to find out which Land Cruiser is best off-road. We're going to be comparing the 200 series to the 250 and finally to the 300 series. Before we get into this video, as always, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Starting with the 250, this is powered by a turbo 2.4 liter 4-cylinder hybrid, 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. It's got about 9 inches of ground clearance, and that is because we are running 33-inch tall tires. Now from the factory, this comes with rock rails and skid plates. The 250 has a 2-speed transfer case, a center and a rear diff lock, as well as a stabilizer bar disconnect, and it comes with Toyota's fancy, if the camera will focus, there we go, multi-terrain select. We'll be doing 5 tests in today's video. First 2 will test traction. The middle test will test out, you know, kind of like higher speed off-roading, middle speed off-roading. This is a 33-degree incline, by the way. And then the final test, 2 tests, will test out articulation and the ability to, like rock crawl, basically. Now my tires are wet, so the traction control system is going to be working extra hard, but MTS in rock mode is quite impressive. Unlike the other two, the 200 series is actually the previous gen of Toyota's off-roaders. Now, just like the 250, this has about 9 inches of ground clearance. Tire size on this is just over 32 inches. This has skid plates from the factory, but these rock rails are aftermarket. Now, the 200 series has the least amount of lockers. It only has a center diff lock, but it does have crawl control, trail turn. It's got MTS, as well as a 2-speed transfer case. And we can't really see it, but this does have KDSS, which helps out with articulation. 200 series. I'm very interested to see how this performs compared to the other two. I will say the hydraulic steering gives you kickback when you go over bumps and stuff, so that is a big difference so far with this. Now the power delivery with this is so much better than the 250. The reason being is you can just be super smooth, and you can see I'm getting stuck up a little bit there, and then it's just figuring it out. That was significantly smoother than the 250. Now, is it because the MTS in this is better? No, it's the older system. It's the engine. This, you can be so precise, so smooth, whereas the 250 being turbocharged and having the hybrid, the power band's kind of going all over the place a little bit, so not as smooth. Now in the US, the only 300 series we get is a Lexus. It's the LX700H. With its fancy hydraulic suspension, it can go up to about 10 inches of ground clearance. The tires on the Lexus are a little bit under 33 inches tall. It does have skid plates, but no rock rails. You can only get side steps from the factory. But that's okay, because this one has the most off-road equipment. It has a front and a rear diff lock. It also has a selectable center. It's got height adjustable suspension, and it has all the fancy computer wizardry from MTS and crawl control. There is one downside with the LX in this comparison. Its tires are quite a bit, they're still off-road tires, but they're quite a bit softer than the other two. So that does give it a bit of a disadvantage. Just thought I'd mention that. Figured that out pretty quickly. So it feels like it's in between in terms of the power delivery It's smoother than the 250 Land Cruiser, but it's still not quite as smooth as the 200 series with the power delivery, but it's actually a lot closer than I thought it would be. Now for our middle speed test, and I do want to mention that my tires are wet because there's a bunch of mud up here, and then there's also, as you can see, these puddles. We're not going to go super fast through them, but that is going to cause traction issues, which should make today's video a little bit more exciting overall. Now, with the 250 Land Cruiser, I'm in four-wheel drive high for this kind of middle speed off-roading. You can use MTS in four-wheel drive high, and so for trails like this, you're going to basically just be relying on the massive amounts of torque that this powertrain provides. Clearances on this aren't enormous, so you do have to take certain things a little bit slower. Again, you've only got about 9 inches of ground clearance, but overall, I mean, it performs really well. See the turning radius coming down through here. Not too bad. Trying to avoid some of the mud puddles if I can. I gotta clean up afterwards. I will say, you don't get any kickback into the steering, and so it's very controllable, which I think is a lot of, which is nice, but you do feel what's happening in the suspension. It's comfortable, but it still gives you feedback. See, that stuff that four-wheel drive low might make a little bit more sense going up a hill like that, because you can see that we were kind of digging on the throttle a bit. But because we have full traction and we're able to maintain a decent level of speed, it's not too bad. But yeah, for the middle speed off-roading type stuff, the 250 does really well. With our middle speed off-roading, I am in four-wheel drive high, but I don't have any MTS. That is one downside with the 200 series, is MTS was only available with this generation of Toyota in four-wheel drive low. So, you know, not a huge deal, but yeah, if you're going to do middle speed or high speed, you're basically just going to have the base traction. You're not going to have MTS. That being said, I haven't found a situation where I've really needed MTS at higher speeds. It's all been while crawling. Now, clearances on this are pretty similar to the 250 in terms of angles and in terms of ground clearance and all of that. I will say suspension comfort, I would say, is just as good as the 250, if not even a little bit better over the crawling stuff. But in terms of, oh, there's where, well, we're not going to do that. So we'll just take the turn differently here in the 200 series. It's going to have to be a multi-point turn because it's sharper than where we went before. But I kind of was like half in it, and I realized that I drove over the grass, and try not to do that. Try not to do that. So again, we are just in four-wheel drive high, no MTS, which we don't really need MTS with this. But yeah, the suspension comfort is good. The only thing is you get kickback in the steering, like I said. And I actually kind of like it because although it's less comfortable, I have a better idea of what's happening underneath me with the front end. And so I feel like I'm better able to adapt what I'm doing with the vehicle. It just gives me a little bit more control. This did, my God, sorry. This is doing way better than the 250 in four-wheel drive high in terms of the torque and everything. It is so much better. It's just so much smoother. Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, that four-cylinder is solid. I hope, definitely feel the weight. This is 300 pounds more than the 250. Interesting. So we're gonna do our kind of middle speed, excuse me, off-roading with the Lexus. Now, just like the 250 Land Cruiser, you don't get kickback in the steering, and so it's more comfortable that way. The suspension in this is the most comfortable out of the bunch. I would say that I would rank it, the 200 series and the 250 are really close. They're really close. The 200 series might be a little bit more comfortable with suspension. This is the most comfortable with the suspension, and then it also has the steering that doesn't, it's electronic, it's not hydraulic, so it doesn't kick back at all. Now this also has the most amount of ground clearance, but we're in H1 right now, so that will give this similar amounts of clearance to the other two actually in this H1. H2 is more clearance. Man, I don't think I'm gonna like the outcome of this comparison, to be honest. This 300 series is seriously impressive. Like the articulation that this has, the torque. See, the 250, if it just had better torque, it wouldn't be. That's the thing that I feel like limits the 250. This, it's got the torque. And it's so, like, the seats are the most comfortable in this too. So like, this is probably, out of every single car I've ever taken off-road, this is the most luxurious, the most comfortable by a long shot. Oh man, I think I might be in love. This is so good. It's like it combines all the good stuff with the 250 and all the good stuff with the 200 series and puts it in one package. It's got the torque, it's got the smooth power delivery, it has the suspension comfort, it's got the articulation, but it's $116,000. This is another low traction situation, basically gravel, and not quite. The first one was 33 degrees. This is about 30 degrees, so a little bit less steep. Again, we're completely unlocked with the diffs. By the way, we're not going to use diff locks unless we need to use them. You can hear the traction control system working. Come on. There you go. Takes a second sometimes. It's got to figure it out. One thing that I will say about MTS is you can slide a little bit as the traction control system's working its stuff. So it's something to kind of correct for while you're driving. Something else I want you guys to remember as we're going through this course, the 200 series has the smallest tires out of the bunch. Least amount of tire clearance, so we got the smallest tires. And again, I don't have my center diff locked. We're not going to use that until we have to use it. I will say I like how multi-terrain select stays in the mode that I have it in. In the 250 series, you've got to constantly switch it back, but when you go from 4 high to 4 low. This is so much better than the 250 in terms of the crawling. Goodness gracious. Now again, this test here is just all about, excuse me, thirst right now, just being controlled, just like the first test, just to push the traction control system. Where is the camera button? Sorry, I just want to make sure I don't scratch against the bush. I don't care about my cars because I got PPF on them. This is a manufacturer car that doesn't. So with worse tires than the 250 Land Cruiser, that does better. This is so annoying. Crawling obstacle for the Land Cruiser Prado. Now, again, we're still gonna have our diffs unlocked, but I am gonna use the stabilizer bar disconnect because the other two Land Cruisers get extra articulation through KDSS with the 200 series, and then the 300 has no sway bar in the rear, and then it has the hydraulic suspension. So those, I can't make them articulate less. Like, it's just, they're always gonna articulate how they're gonna articulate. This, you have the ability to do one or the other. Now, I will say the suspension on this is still very comfortable. Like, this rocky terrain in a lot of cars just maxes out the suspension in terms of it's just constantly going like this, and it's super uncomfortable. But yeah, the Prado is actually very comfortable. So this shouldn't be too bad, but with the stabilizer bar disconnect, we're still gonna kind of lift up a little bit. But you can see the traction control system can figure it out. And so even when you get articulated, this new MTS is actually pretty impressive with distributing the power. we're doing the first kind of articulated climb with the 200 series, and I am continued to be impressed when I compare this to the 250. I understand we're talking about Prado versus full size, but I mean, there's probably like a 15-year difference in terms of 10 or 15-year difference in terms of the development of the tech with these two vehicles. And so it's incredible just how well the 200 series has aged. It's, I don't know, I think it's incredible, at least. Yeah, the comfort with this is great, and the throttle modulation is probably my favorite part. And this just goes to show how nice it is to have naturally aspirated engines, because you can just be very precise and it's very linear with the power. I mean, and it's using the MTS way less often, I'm noticing. Like, just the traction computers in general. It's using them way less often than the 250 was constant, and I love having this. I love having this instead of an electronic parking brake. First crawling obstacle with the 300 series, and the more I drive this, the more I am insanely impressed. Again, 583 pound-feet of torque out of this hybrid V6, so it's able to basically do the same thing as the 200 series in terms of the torque delivery and how smooth it is. It is quite impressive, and the articulation's super impressive. Unlike air suspension vehicles with hydraulic, you still get all of the articulation at the top of the suspension. So right here we are articulated a decent amount. You can hear the MTS working a bit there, but just like the other two, it got through. Now, I've got the windows down just so I can listen. Sorry if there's a little bit of wind noise. This last obstacle is going to push each of the vehicles to their respective limits. This is, I mean, you guys will see on the outside, the exterior camera, this is a pretty big rock climb for what is ultimately kind of like, you know, overlanding vehicles. And this will also push the MTS to the limit too. Now, I'm taking it very slow because I don't have a ton of clearance in the 250. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So let's, man, I need to probably come down a little bit more. Okay, sorry, let me get out and self-spot and see, because I went up this earlier today. Yeah. So it's this rock that's the problem. I'm too far over here. I need to get a little bit more to the side there. So, good thing this has skid plates and everything. Okay. Just have to take it slow. You can use MTS in reverse as well. Sorry, I'm just kind of pumping the brakes here, because the back end's going to be articulated a bit. And you can hear all of that happening. Okay, so let's try to get a little bit over to the side. Okay, so let's try this again. I got to get this right in the 250. Man, I still don't feel like I'm lined up pretty well. Would be nice to have a spotter, but yeah, I think that's gonna be my best chance, honestly. Yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, I have to get this right in the 250 because I can't damage that Lexus. It's not mine. It's a demo car from Lexus. Okay, so this is going better than before. Now we're coming down, but we need to start going up on this next. There we go, we got it right this time. Let's try that again. What? Yeah, I'm in a rock crawl. It's not getting enough traction. Let's try our center diff. There we go. Center diff for the win. Sorry, I'm 2-footing this, taking it nice and slow so that I don't rip out my bottom end. Come on, buddy. There we go. There we go. Still a little bit of drama, but we got through. Final rock crawl with the Tuner Series, and I will say the multi-terrain select monitor, whatever it's called, camera system is definitely a lot less usable in this compared to the new 250. Now, just like the 250, we are, oh, I think we're too far over. Sorry, again, I'm self-spotting. Let me, just check, see how I'm lined up here. Okay, so I'm going up there pretty decently lined up. I do actually need to get a little bit more over to my side, just a titch. Okay, let's bring the MTS monitor back up. Okay, this should be correct. Let's hope so. So this is what I'm talking about. So the hydraulic steering, it's okay. So we're getting slipping just like the 250. So we will lock the center diff. There we go. A little bit more drama. Oh, we are not up. Okay, I'm trying to 2-foot this a little bit. Okay, I'm just releasing the brake slowly so that I don't like, and letting the car settle. There we go. If you guys are wondering, with MTS, because it's spinning, right, if you want to stop it, you just press down the brake and then slowly release it, let it release the tension. There we go. So that was definitely more work. We do have smaller tires. And there we go. I think I've got this lined up pretty darn well. I'll still take it slow. Now the 200 series and the 250 did dig the ground in a bit, and that's how I kind of now know I'm pretty lined up. So that is going to create an extra challenge for the Lexus here. Yep. Okay, fully expected. That happened with the other two. And this has the worst tires out of the bunch. So just the center diff. And the tires on this just might not be good enough to be able to. I'll give it one more go. A little bit more. It felt like it was starting to crawl there. So funny enough, you can actually, I'm pretty sure, lock just the front. So let's do that. That's not getting us anywhere. Okay. Okay, we will lock the rear. I wish I could put like different tires on this, because if it had the tires of the other two, it'd be fine. But yeah, once you lock all of the diffs, you're gonna have the triple lock setup, which is gonna give you maximum control. Jeez, that came down more than I thought it would. Have to double check the side step there. But yeah, triple locked, and of course it's gonna be able to get through. Just so we're all on the same page, this is what the 200 and the 250 dug out that the Lexus had to deal with. And this is what was really tripping up the Lexus. This got dug in so deep that it wasn't really able to get traction there anymore. And again, the other two have big knobby tires because they're my cars, and well, I pick tires that are better for off-roading. These are all-terrain tires, but they are very soft. They're not going to get great traction in this type of situation, especially with mud. Here's what I think we can conclude after this off-road test. Well, tires are, as always, very, very important when it comes to off-roading. But after driving all three, here's the deal. I still love the 200 series. The 250, I really appreciate. I think that a good way to look at the 250 is it's kind of like Toyota's Wrangler in a way. It's more affordable. It still has tons of off-road capability, but unlike a Wrangler, it actually provides some level of luxury. Let me close the window so you guys don't have a bunch of wind buffeting. The 200 series is insanely capable even today. Even though it has the older tech, you put a good set of tires on the 200 series and it will go places. The 300 series, here's the deal. The 300 series basically provides you with a similar amount of capability as what you'd get with a heavily modified 200 series. So the 200 series, where they lift them, they put bigger tires on them, and then they add air lockers. That's what this is from the factory. Again, this has the factory tires, which are really soft. You can fit 34s, even 35s is what some people have told me from the factory. You can even do that on a 250, by the way. So you put 34s on this, and the capability is insane. Now, the one downside, obviously, is the bumper setup on this, right? If you're going to do serious off-roading, you're going to want to... Sorry, I got to go slow over this. You're going to want to change out the bumpers in the front and in the rear. Now, the last thing I want to say that really surprised me is I thought weight was going to be a bigger issue in this off-road comparison than it was. The 250 weighs 5,700. The 200 weighs 6,000. This weighs 6,200. I thought, especially with the 250 compared to the 300, or yeah, 250 compared to the 300, this would feel substantially less comfortable on the rocks. But the reality is I actually felt more comfortable in this than the 250. I actually felt like this felt more balanced in a way. I don't understand why that is. But my rankings after taking all three off-road is that the LX 700H, the 300 series, is the best out of the three. And then the 200 series, I actually prefer that over the 250, and then the 250 is in third. But the 200 series and the 250 are actually pretty close, because basically the 200 series has a better engine, and then the 250 has better, you know, well, I wouldn't say the steering's better. I actually like feeling what's happening. That's the one thing that I don't like about this, is how isolated it is. But anyways, the 250 does have the better traction control system, and we saw that with the final climb, where the 250, it's harder to modulate the throttle, but traction control system's really strong. So if you could only, if I could only have one that had to do it all, it would be a 300 series. And it sucks because it's the most expensive, but it's the most expensive for a reason.